Hello? Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you can hear me, because I'm not sure what's going on with the audio. I'm just trying to figure it out right now. Okay, great. The only thing I want to figure out now is the background music, because I do have the lo-fi channel playing in the background, but for some reason you can't hear in the stream, so I'm just going to double check that real quick. Let's see. Okay, you know what? I don't know how to fix that right now, so I'm just gonna put it on in the background on my laptop. Okay, I guess I'll just start. Thanks so much, you guys, for coming to the stream. And as you guys probably know, it's gonna be a Reference Wednesday live. I'm just gonna do some studies, and I've prepared these photos over here, which, as usual, come from Studio Graffiti packs. And I kind of forgot to put a bunch of stuff in the links in the description of the stream, but this little window is this program called PureRef, which I highly recommend because it's super easy to put a bunch of references in there and then save it for later, and you can set it on top to float on top of a window like Photoshop or something, so it's super helpful. But yeah, I'm not gonna ramble too much, but I will answer questions as they come up, and I'm just gonna get started now. And I will be checking the chat here and there, but hopefully I can keep up with it. And somebody asked if the live will be uploaded on the channel, and yes, I do think it'll just automatically go up after the stream is done. Probably make some comments now and then. So this is the brush that I typically use for sketching. I believe I got it from the Ahmed Al-Dori set of free brushes, and I think I tweaked it slightly. I don't remember what I did exactly, but it's more or less intact. And I'm using this canvas with a texture. I prepared I basically use the same file every time I do this, so that it already has like this layer with the texture on it. I just don't like looking at a totally blank white screen, so I prefer a little bit of a texture. And yes, I will zoom in on the pose. Sorry about that. I'm just like still getting ready. Yeah, so the first couple of references I put in actually are portraits, just to have like an easier of a start, so I can, you know, get rid of the rusty feeling, and then I'll get into the full body poses after I'm done with these. All right, let's go. typically concentrate really hard when I do these studies and stuff, so I'm not used to drawing and doing commentary at the same time, but I'll kind of try to do that since it is a live stream, so I probably should. But as you can see, the first thing I do is just roughly plan out where things are gonna go, and I'm not too concerned about total accuracy, and I like to do this type of stuff mainly to help me be able to get everything down quickly so that I can just fill out the facial features later on. This kind of approach is just super useful for drawing comics later on. And as usual, the first couple of drawings will probably not look very good, but that's okay because, you know, it just takes time to warm up, and hopefully it won't take too long. But sometimes I have sessions where it's just really difficult for some reason, and it does not go the way I want it to, which is also fine. Alright, not the best drawing, but I'm just gonna move on from this. This is actually such a nice photo. Maybe I'll do like a lighting study at some point, but yeah, I'm just gonna move on for now. Actually, let me just look at the chat real quick to see if I missed any questions. Somebody asked if I do anything specific, if I have anything specific I look for when choosing references for studies. And yeah, typically I will just make decisions based on what the point of the study session is. So if I don't have anything specific in mind, if I want to just like warm up and do a bunch of, you know, figure drawings, I'll just make sure that the poses are not all too similar, and I usually like some sort of dynamic poses because those are easier to get into and like more fun to draw. So that's something I typically look for, unless there's something very specific that I want to do otherwise. And yeah, like whoever just is new and missed my first 5 minutes, I'm just doing a couple of portraits first to warm up, and then I'll get into the full bodies. I'm actually finding the portraits like harder right now for some reason, even though I thought it would be the opposite. Okay. Okay. I think it's getting a little bit less rusty now, which is nice. think I'll just do the other two. I prepared 4 portraits. I don't know, or maybe I could just move on to the full bodies now. Yeah, maybe I'll just do that. Okay. Let's just jump into the figure studies. I picked a bunch of poses from this Studio Graffiti pack called Casual Female Poses. I really love that pack so much. It's got so many good poses, especially for like, I don't know, getting more natural poses and less like dramatic and staged looking stuff. I find that it's super hard for me to find more natural and casual everyday poses when I look on Pinterest and stuff. So this pack is great, and I'm also going to just look at the questions now to see if I missed anything. Somebody asked, do I only draw from real photo references, and would I study from another drawing? I typically do my warm-up sessions or these types of studies from photo references, but once in a while I will study another artist, although I haven't really done that all that often in the past. It's definitely something I'm planning to do more of in the future. and specifically I've been really thinking of studying J.C. Leyendecker for his painting and fold, like clothing fold simplification. So yes. Let's see. I'm having a hard time reading through the chat because I'm such a slow reader. Okay. Let's see. Wait, I'm not seeing any other questions, so I'm just gonna continue on with the next pose, or the first, I guess, full pose, and I'll try to, like, narrate if something comes to mind. But yeah, like I mentioned, I'm not the best at drawing and talking at the same time, so I'll, just a heads up. Okay. So what I'm doing right now is putting down some rough guidelines on where things are gonna go. I try to use a lot of straight lines when I do this first step. Is something I've noticed. It's not conscious, it's just because it helps to keep the lines more straight. It keeps to narrow down the curves with more accuracy later on if I utilize more straight angles and straight lines at the beginning, because getting down the correct curve the first time is a bit tough. Like, it takes a lot of practice to do that, so it's actually simpler to start off with more boxy shapes in the beginning just to get the placement correct, and then later on when I go in for the second pass, which will be now, or almost, I'm just gonna put in a couple of more facial feature cues like so. Yeah, and then I'm gonna go back probably with a different brush, and it will be easier to narrow down the correct curves, or not necessarily correct, just, you know, I guess that's where shape design comes in. But that's not something I want to talk about because it's very complicated and I don't have anything prepared for that. All right. Just gonna make this a bit smaller. Actually, no, never mind. I'll leave it at this size so it's easier for you guys to see. And now I just switched over to a sharper brush, this one, just to make things a little more clear when I go in for the second pass. Just make the brush a bit bigger, actually. So. Okay, now it's too big. I definitely have a tendency to expect too much, and I have to like remind myself that I just started and still a bit rusty, so I gotta be patient with the warm-up stage of things. Sometimes it takes a while to properly warm up, like maybe half an hour or something like that, so it definitely requires some patience. I'm just gonna read through the chat because it's been silent for quite some time. Oh man, I missed a lot of text. Just gonna skim through it. I see a couple of people asked how my script is going, so let's see, unless there are some relevant questions to the figure drawing, I'm just gonna talk about that. Okay, so yeah, how my script is going. It's going pretty well, I think. I just finished. I'm almost done writing the 3rd chapter, which brings me to about 100 pages of actual comic. So that's quite a lot, and that is why I decided to just jump straight into it without thinking too much, because all I ever do is think too much, and I always feel like there might be something that I'm like radical that I might want to change in the script, and that's why I keep putting it off. But I feel like at this point it's unlikely that I'm going to change the prologue, at least, so I just have to start. And at the end of the day, I definitely know that I can't write the whole entire story because it is going to be pretty long, most likely, and I will never be able to pick a point at which it will feel safe to just start, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do it without further delays. So yeah, my current plan is to, I already kind of set up the layouts, or like the storyboard file, and yeah, I just gotta do that. I just needed to do a little bit of visual development before I started, because there's a character that I don't know exactly what they look like yet, but now that I've finished doing that, I'm pretty much good to start. So yeah, pretty excited and scared, but you know, that's never gonna change. Uh-oh, someone's calling me. Just gonna ignore that. Alright. Actually, maybe I'm gonna go painting this hair. Just use this brush. Okay. Not too bad for the start. Hopefully the next one will go smoother. Something's wrong with Photoshop. What's going on here? Is it frozen? I don't know. Oh, there you go. It's back. Sometimes it freezes and like the canvas stops moving. It's the weirdest thing. Okay. Looking back, what is my intention with this session? Somebody asks. Yeah, just pretty much warming up. I mean, I decided to do a live stream, so for me that ended up being the only thing I really thought about is that I want to do it live. Didn't really think about it past that, but yeah, I just want to get more comfortable with doing live streams more and hopefully do them more often, because I used to do them all the time and it was a lot of fun. And it's weird how it got kind of like stressful because I haven't done it in so long, but it seems alright so far. Definitely a lot more relaxed than I was right before the stream. Okay, I'm gonna do this pose now. Got a bit distracted for a second there. This one's a bit tough with the legs because there's some foreshortening going on, but it's always good to get poses like this because it's good practice, and it's a bit more difficult to make this kind of stuff look believable. I never start in the right spot, so I always have to like move things around and resize them. There we go. I think the head's a bit big, but do that. These like somewhat symmetrical poses can actually be a lot more challenging just because both sides look so similar that it's tough to keep it that way and not have everything become lopsided, which sometimes happens. Earlier this year, one of my biggest difficulties, I would say, when it comes to anatomy was the armpit area. It's a bit complicated in there, but I'm happy to say that I've actually gotten way more comfortable with that now, and it's a lot easier for me to discern what's going on in that area now, so that's great. It's always nice to gain confidence in areas that have previously given me a lot of trouble, you know what I mean? I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I always love to increase the volume of the hair. Just because hair is one of the most fun things to draw, but then sometimes it makes the head look gigantic, which is something to watch out for. Alright, let's finish these legs. Man, somebody just keeps calling me. Oh, I should probably just silence my phone. I'm gonna do that right now. Okay, I'm just gonna finish this leg, and then I'm gonna look at the questions and see if I missed anything, so. Adding this cross-section line really helps sometimes to convey volume, though I don't know how successful it is in this particular case. It's a really tough pose. Okay. Ooh, this one's gonna be fun. Okay, I'm gonna look at questions now. Questions. I see a couple of people asked where the references are from. They are from Studio Graffiti reference packs, and the link is in my description. Oh, somebody, okay, I'm not gonna try to pronounce that, but somebody asked how much shipping costs for my artwork or stickers to the UK. I can't be 100% sure, so the best thing you can do is just like put whatever you want in the cart and then go to the checkout and just check, like, to see, and you can always just cancel it right there and there, and if it's too expensive, that's the best way to check how much shipping will be. Somebody asked what tablet I use. I use the Wacom Cintiq 24 Pro, and it has been the best thing that I've ever used so far, and I love it. It actually made drawing digitally a lot more enjoyable for me, because previously I just had like pretty bad resolution, and I thought the pressure sensitivity and such were fine, or like as good as they get, but I was actually shocked to find out that it can get a lot better with the newest model. So yeah, I do like the Cintiq. And somebody looked up if this will be, somebody asked if this will be uploaded to the channel, and yes, after the stream is done, it will be up on my channel. Okay, so I think I couldn't really see any questions, so any other questions, so I'm just gonna continue. Let me know if there's anything specific you guys want me to explain. I'd love to try that. Oh, I actually noticed that her head is too big here. I'm just gonna make it smaller. Sometimes I have such a hard time with proportions. Mostly because, like, when you look at a lot of art, people can get very liberal with proportions, especially in comics and stuff, where everyone has, like, crazy, superhuman proportions and smaller heads, and then real people start to look weird by comparison, so. It's tough. Harley Quinn asked, how to draw two people on the same plane for my comics. It's funny you should ask, because actually I have some photos later on for the session prepared that are of couples. So hopefully I'll get to demonstrate. It's definitely a lot harder to draw two people interacting with each other side by side, but I mean, hopefully I'll just demonstrate that later. As for the plane, I don't really know what you mean exactly by the same plane. Like, yeah, not sure. Someone said, what's going on in female artists' mind when they're drawing sexy chicks and girls? Buddy, don't you know that female beauty is universally loved? You don't have to be a guy to appreciate it. Okay, I'm gonna start on this new pose now. I think this girl is like, the model in the photos is double jointed or something, because that is a funky angle for the arm. Looks kind of broken, but you know what? I'll just roll with it. Yeah, that looks totally broken. But that's okay. His face looks hilarious, but it gets the job done. Actually, maybe it's a little bit too big. Maybe not. Yeah, I'll just leave it. Too hasty with this foot, so I'm just gonna erase that. I'm just catching up with the chat, guys. Bear with me. I'm such a slow reader. Ah. Okay, I think it's kind of hard for me to keep up with the chat, and from what I can see, most of the questions are like not directed at me. So I'm just gonna keep going. Oh, sorry about that. I hit the mic with my cup. Gary Knowlton asked what software I'm using. It's Photoshop. Photoshop CC. Another question. How wide is the skill gap from doing traditional inking / drawing to using the graphic tablet? I honestly don't know. Well, okay, I'm not sure what you mean exactly by skill gap, but in my personal experience, usually the biggest, like, drawback for digital or traditional is just not being familiar with the medium, but the skill, like, your skill should be pretty transferable regardless of what you're using. It's just a matter of getting used to the medium. So, like, for instance, I have a hard time jumping between programs or apps because the settings can give me trouble. Like, I like things being a certain way, making certain types of lines, etc. So if I don't know how to calibrate the brushes to get the desired effect, it gives me a lot of trouble. So I would say there's a gap there. But when it comes to skill, it doesn't matter. It's like pretty much the same. I mean, especially since these days, like, using tablets, like the one I'm using, the Cintiq, it's very close. It's very similar to drawing on paper anyway. So, oh, I need a water refill. I'll be right back. Do I use Copics? No, I actually don't. I used to use Copic markers in the past at some point, but I honestly haven't touched them in years, so yeah, it's definitely not something I use these days. Although, I kind of miss markers. Sometimes I do want to go back to alcohol markers. Yeah, Indigo47, you said you have less room to make mistakes with traditional. Very true. I think that's the biggest difference between traditional and digital. So I think overall, I would say that digital is easier in that regard, yeah. And the fact that you can just, like, you don't have to worry so much about planning everything ahead of time because you can always fix things pretty easily, whereas in traditional sometimes you can make mistakes that there's no going back from. So yeah, on to the next pose. I kind of want to try exaggerating a little more because I've noticed that keep doing these studies and I usually try to go for accuracy, but I think I'm at a point where I kind of want to experiment more with exaggerating shapes rather than going for straight up accuracy, but that is kind of a difficult transition to make, so I don't know how I'm gonna go about doing that. I mean, I do exaggerate and simplify, but I want to do it to a larger degree, and I'm not sure how to make that happen. I used to really hate drawing feet, but I think I actually kind of like it now. Now that I've demystified them for myself, and I can kind of understand the shape, it has gotten a lot easier, I would say. by the way, guys, if you're asking me a question specifically, if you could at me, that would actually make it a lot easier to find, because I feel like I spent so long trying to read through the chat, but I can't keep up, so yeah, I'm just gonna continue, and if I see someone at me with a question, I will answer that. Oh, Harley Quinn asks, what does my Skillshare class go over? My Skillshare class essentially explains my illustration process that is mostly traditional, like the execution of the illustration is traditional, but I do the sketch digitally, and it just briefly goes over the entirety of the process from the very start, like making a thumbnail to making the sketch and transferring the sketch over to onto paper, etc. So it's just like an overview of what steps I take and what order of process, like my workflow. And I pretty much kind of use the same workflow now, although these days sometimes I don't. Like sometimes I'll just sketch straight onto paper, but essentially yeah, it's like an overview of my traditional illustration process. I use a Cintiq 24 Pro. Sorry guys, I forgot to include a bunch of information in the stream, like in the information in the description. I'll make sure to do that next time, to include some links and like to describe all the stuff that I'm using and such. Juliana says, while it is easier to correct mistakes in digital, that's the reason you prefer studying anatomy in traditional, and do I have any tips to study anatomy on digital? I would say that, I mean, it's hard for me to say exactly what is preferable. I prefer to do it digitally just because I like the setup of you know, having the reference right there. I don't like looking in a different direction for the reference because I'm lazy, I guess. But like, for instance, if I use a screen to look at the reference while drawing things on in my sketchbook, I constantly have to look up and down, and I don't like doing that. So that's one of the reasons. Another reason is just it's easier to organize. It doesn't waste paper. I mean, there's like a million reasons as to why I like doing it digitally these days. I do think maybe it's a bit more challenging to do it on paper, but as you can see, with me doing this live, I don't really erase. Like, I almost don't erase at all. So in that sense, it's more or less the same, I would say. I don't think the difference is that huge, especially given how these days, like, my Cintiq that I use is so, like, it's so accurate and it's so similar to drawing on paper that I would say the differences are negligible. Somebody asks which sketchbook I prefer. I honestly use like a million different sketchbooks for different purposes. For just scratches, like, you know, like warm-ups and doodles and thumbnails and stuff like that, I just get like really cheap sketchbooks from Muji because they are cheap, and I like the paper. I like the fact that the paper is kind of on the thin side, but it's still relatively sturdy. So the sketchbooks can be small but have like a lot of pages, so you don't run out quickly. But also, I like smooth paper because, I don't know, there's just something about textured paper that I don't like for sketching on, if that makes any sense. I don't know how to explain it. I used to use, like, those large sketchbooks with the thicker pages that have a bit of a texture, and I found that using a pencil especially, for some reason, I really don't like those. I like very clean lines, and I don't like using anything like in the B direction when it comes to pencils. I actually prefer like HB or H so that there's no smudging. I hate the smudges and stuff, and I don't like getting it on my hands. Yeah, I don't know, that's kind of a tangent, but yeah, I don't have like any crazy specific preferences for sketchbooks, so. Oh, Thurman showed my drawings in animation class. That's so nice to hear. He was my favorite life drawing prof in Sheridan, so that's really nice to know. Yeah, and I definitely had him when I was in my first year, and I absolutely loved that class. He taught me so much. Just catching up. I'm gonna answer one more question, and then I'm gonna do the next pose. So, Lemonon asks about drawing faces of different proportions and types and how to practice faces. I would say the easiest way to do that is just to like set up a reference board, like whether it be on Pinterest or just like using PureRef like I am right now, and collect a bunch of photos, like portrait photos, where obviously the facial features are clear, and you know, aim for variety if that's something that specifically you want to study, and then just do that. I mean, there isn't really any other way of approaching that, but if you have a hard time structuring the face, I would really recommend this book by Loomis. I think it's called Heads and Hands. I learned a ton from that book. Like, what I did was just, I mean, I read it through. I don't think it even has that much text, but I just copied every single illustration in it. Like, I did that, and you know what, I could probably stand to use it again, because faces are quite hard to draw, and it's about mileage. Like, you just have to draw a lot of faces and heads in order to really get used to it. So I would say check out that book again, Heads and Hands, or Hands and Heads by Loomis, and yeah, just gather a bunch of references of different looking faces and just study those. That should help. And yes, I do live in Ontario. I live in Toronto, actually. Okay. I'm just gonna do the next pose, and then I'll answer some more questions when I'm done. I will try to exaggerate this one if I can. I think I can do it. Yeah. Even if it's a slight exaggeration, I will try. I do feel a lot more warmed up at this point, which is nice. Once again, too close to the bottom of the canvas. Gotta move it. I do that almost every single time, eh? This is why it's better for me to draw digitally, because I do the same thing on paper and then I just run out of room and I don't have any space for the feet. So I guess that is one of the reasons why I prefer studying figures digitally, because it's not about your mastery of positioning things on a page. So I don't like to have that as a constriction. it's actually more fun to try and exaggerate. Although it does take longer, but it's a lot of fun. Okay, I'm gonna look at some questions now. Here's a question. since I rarely erase, how do I keep myself from making too many marks and making a drawing messy, and how certain am I before I put down a line that it's the correct one? So the trick to that is to just slow down. And I actually talk about this at length in one of my videos, one of the Reference Wednesdays ones. I don't remember which one exactly, but it's like one of the tip compilation ones. So I essentially explained that you really have to kind of slow down, and that's how I stop myself from making too many marks and making a drawing messy. It's because usually what results in a mess is just rushing, which is not necessarily self-evident, but yeah, that's what it is. So the key is to make really light marks and very how do I put this? Like, sometimes I will just put like a dot where the knee is, or like something like that. You know what I mean? It's just being very. It's called line economy. So just economizing when it comes to deciding which lines to put down. And I'm not like 100% certain that the line is correct, but I just basically rely on my observation, and if it's relatively where it's supposed to be, then it's very easy to put it, like, adjust it going forward with the pose. So hopefully that answered that question. Somebody mentioned in the conversation that Proco does tutorials and he simplifies the Loomis method quite a bit. I'm not familiar with Proco stuff, but I would always say going to the source is always good. So I would definitely check out Loomis and maybe other stuff in conjunction. But yes, Loomis is great, I think. Where am I? Somebody asked how I keep my characters consistent looking. That's a really good question, actually, because I have like kind of a weird way of keeping characters consistent, and it has less to do with measuring things and more to do with your level of connection / familiarity with the character that you're drawing. So I mean, sometimes your style will change whether you want it to or not, and maybe that'll change the consistency a little bit, but I think if you really focus on treating the character as like a person that exists, then it actually becomes a lot easier to draw them consistently, because you're not looking at them as the drawing that resembles another drawing, but it's like you draw the character and it either looks like them or it doesn't look like them. So that's kind of how I tend to approach it. I don't know if it's particularly helpful, but I personally found it super helpful when it came to drawing a graphic novel, where I feel like my consistency was decent, you know? It was pretty good, I think, overall. I mean, I did my best, and that is how I approached it. It was about my familiarity with the character and kind of treating them as a person rather than just looking at drawings and comparing drawings, if that makes any sense. Twixter asked if I would say it's better to practice anatomy traditionally or digitally. I think it kind of depends on where you are at. If you're at a point where you find yourself making a ton of mistakes and you need to erase a lot, I think maybe it would be best to start out traditionally. But once you get to a point where it's more in the nuance of what you're trying to learn, then maybe digital is okay. But honestly, like I said, you can just control how you tend to approach it. Like if you're doing it digitally, just don't erase. Like it doesn't really matter. It's more about putting restrictions on yourself as you see fit, rather than and like, you know, your level of familiarity with the medium, and it can be very similar drawing things digitally or traditionally. So yeah, but I do think traditionally is probably the better place to start for beginners, I would say. Somebody asked if I'm willing to consider doing an anatomy session with male figures. Sure, I can do that at some point. I find like female figures just more fun to draw, but that is a personal preference. And yeah, I definitely could stand to do more male figure drawing, so I'll do that at some point. Actually, like I do have more. As you can see here, I have some couple poses coming up, and so there's that. Juliana asks, after I made my art career, did I pick another hobby? It's actually a fun question. I didn't. I've always had like a ton of different hobbies, and I feel like I just keep picking up more and more hobbies as life progresses. So I never really felt like art was the only one. In fact, though, I feel like the degree of seriousness with which I took it, even when I was young, like even when I was younger, like when I was 12 or 13 or something, I was so intense about art that it never felt like a hobby to me, even though it was. I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. Like to me, hobby is more like something you can do like once a week, or you know, now and then when you have the free time, and it's just like this fun activity. But the level of intensity with art for me has always been like a daily thing, and I did it so much that it was never a hobby anyway. So I don't think I ever had to really transition. I think the transition, like the difficulty in the transition there, was more about just getting used to deadlines and accountability and such. But yeah, as for other hobbies, like I don't know, there's like a million other things that I like doing. So yes. Okay, I'm just gonna go back to the thing. Okay, I'm gonna do the next pose, and then maybe I'll do two poses, and then I will answer some more questions if there are any. Hopefully those were acceptable answers. Just wanted to point out here that what you're looking at right now, I would say, is a good skeleton. I know there's like barely anything on the page, but I would say that this is the type of thing that I aim for, because since there's barely anything on the page, but the placement of all the major elements is pretty, you know, apparent, I think this is the kind of thing that makes it the easiest to proceed for me anyways. I think it's pretty bare bones, so I will add some more lines just to clarify things, but starting out with something like this I think is good to is a good place to aim at. And it only took like, I don't know, 20-30 seconds to get that down, so it's pretty fast. And I am going to see if I can just exaggerate it a little bit, but we'll see how will I do with that. This is also a good one because quite a bit of the figure is obscured by the, or like, I guess the torso area is kind of obscured by the shirt, which can be good practice, you know. Sometimes when you can see everything clearly, it just is way easier to draw. And it's definitely more of a challenge when the body is obscured by clothing, so, yeah. It's also easier to make sketches light when your brush is smaller. I mean, maybe that's super obvious to people, but sometimes I won't bother to adjust the size of my brush, and then I will wonder why the session is going so poorly, or I'm really annoyed at how messy the sketches are, and it honestly just was the direct result of having the brush size too big. So there's also that, and it's kind of a visual thing. I don't have any like specific sizes because it depends on the size of your canvas, but yeah, the thinner the line, obviously the cleaner the sketch will be. So yeah. Yeah, this one's not looking particularly exaggerated, but that's okay. Maybe later I'm going to show you guys some visual development that I did last night for my comic. I can't believe I finally pulled the trigger on that. I mean, I've been kind of like slowly working on it here and there for a very long time, but just finally even making the decision to go ahead and start is a pretty big deal to me. Very excited for that. It's been so long since I've drawn comics. It's crazy. I really miss it. It's definitely one of my favorite things to draw. I think I really prefer working on stuff with a ton of context, and you can't get any more context than when you're actually drawing out a comic book scene, so. One of my favorite things when I'm not in a huge rush is just doing the face in these little studies, because I feel like when I do figure studies, since the face is so like, I don't know how to explain it, but I almost never draw like random faces because I always draw my character, so it can be really fun to just draw a random person and see how that goes without having to make it look like anybody in particular. So yeah, that's kind of an enjoyable part of things for me. It doesn't always turn out great, but it is a lot of fun to try to figure out ways to simplify it. Also been a big fan of the lasso tool lately. To just like select an area and quickly fill it. God, the amount of time it saves is crazy. I can't believe I didn't do that more in the past. That's actually one thing that I really like about digital art. But, you know, there are some equivalents when it comes to traditional as well when you use ink, so I don't know. But I love both is the verdict on digital versus traditional. I think I got enough out of this pose, and sometimes, like, I guess I used to wonder when to call something done, and these days it's pretty much like if I feel like I got the pose down and just not missing any major elements, then it's done and I just move on, like right now. Otherwise, you know, I could just go on forever tweaking little things and adding small details. Maybe I should draw in the chair, though. Yeah, I'm just gonna do that. Boop. I don't know what's going on here, but alright, yeah, that's good enough. So she's not just floating. I have a bad habit of always drawing people just floating in midair. Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna answer some questions now. Okay. Amir Ben Nasser asks, do I recommend some books on art theory or simply learning from artists? I think I would recommend both. There are definitely some books I studied back in the day. I haven't looked at books in a little while, but I think a lot can be learned from books for sure. Like I mentioned earlier in the stream, Andrew Loomis is a big one. Like, I think it's pretty classic, and like I understand his approach is it looks pretty dated, but I think all in all, the valuable information is definitely there, so I would highly recommend that. I like Michael Hampton, for anatomy specifically, for like body construction. I think that's some of the most helpful stuff that I've looked at. There's also Bridgman, which can be a lot more difficult to study, but I'd still probably recommend that. You know, one of these days I gotta put together a video of books I recommend, so I'm just gonna make a mental note of that, because, you know, I can just sit there trying to remember books forever. But yes, I would definitely recommend like both books and learning from other artists simultaneously. When drawing from imagination, do I still look up references to be sure I'm accurate with the details, or do I have the anatomy memorized? For body specifically, I would say I typically don't use a reference, because I find the reference to be a little bit distracting. I think doing a lot of these study sessions like this really kind of make the proportions and such, and just drawing figures, it makes it like second nature. So I don't find it particularly difficult to construct a figure from nothing, and having an idea first. I mean, it really kind of depends. Like, if it's something super intense, like a crazy angle or a very intense foreshortening or something like that, I could totally, I don't know, usually for stuff like that, if it's super specific, it's easier just go to a mirror and take a reference for the specific element that's like, you know, troublesome and I would need a reference for, typically like foreshortening. But when it comes to relatively simple poses, it's almost faster and easier to just do it without a reference, because, you know, like if you have something specific in mind, it just takes forever to find the reference, and then even if the reference is slightly different, it can be irritating to me. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, I try to do it without a reference if I can, and I can most of the time when it comes to like simple body types. I probably couldn't do it for like a muscular man or something though, but you know, practice. But when it comes to backgrounds and objects, like if I know what something looks like, if I've drawn it before, I can usually just draw it from memory. But if it's something new and I'm unsure about the details, I will have to look up a reference. Pretty straightforward. Somebody asked what brush I use. I use brushes, I don't know, I kind of have like a collection of random brushes from random places. Most of them though came with Photoshop. I believe like back when I got them, it was Kyle's Mega Pack. Now they're just brushes that come with Photoshop. And I also use some brushes from Ahmed Al-Douri's free brush pack. And yes, I am going to upload this later. Sorry guys, I'm a little behind on the chat, so bear with me while I read through it and get the questions. Okay, question. Juliana asks, if I had to give advice on drawing or making comics for my past self, what would it be? Oh man, that's a really hard one. Because I feel like on the one hand, like, beware of unearned knowledge, you know? You can't just tell someone to do something and have it any lasting results. Most things of value that I have come upon was just through trial and error and through, like, trial by fire, if that makes any sense. Like, I had to make mistakes in order to learn how to approach things differently. So I feel like I would probably say just have faith in your project and just, like, bet on yourself and just do what you want to do instead of constantly feeling like you're not ready, because it's always better to just do something than to put it off forever and then regret not doing it. But for you know, like A Million Reasons, I spent like the vast majority of my life putting things off and never feeling ready. So I don't think that would make a difference anymore. Like, you can't just tell someone that. I don't know. I feel like people have to come to those conclusions kind of through their own experience. If that makes any sense. Okay, I'm gonna answer like a few more questions and I'll move on to the next pose. Oh yeah, guys, by the way. Oh my god, it's 2:50. Okay, so I have a dentist appointment later today. And I am gonna have to leave to get ready for that at some point. So I think I'm gonna end the stream at 4. And that should give me enough time. Unless I get tired before that for whatever reason, but yeah, I'm gonna aim to end it at 4. Just gotta make sure I don't forget about my appointment. Okay, I'm gonna try to get through these quicker. Oh, this is a good question. How do I plan for the objects that will be in my comic? That is a good question because I've done that previously when I was working on a graphic novel. And how I approached that is, I mean, it really helped that the script was ready, so I obviously read through the script. And then I made notes of the objects that were important to the story or objects that would appear like more than once. So those are the important ones, and those I did design ahead of time, usually just before the chapter. So I would like read through the chapter and make note of everything that like needs to specifically be predetermined, I guess is the word, because there's a ton of stuff that appears that you'll only see once, and that is just like make up on the spot. But yeah, just like being aware of what is important and just like designing objects ahead of time based on chapters, I guess, kind of helps. So that is that. I thought that was kind of like a unique question and very specific, so I figured I'd answer it. And okay, how have I ever studied the force drawing method? If so, would I recommend it? No, I haven't like studied it. I have read the book. I do have the book, Force. I honestly found that the book, like, I totally get what it's trying to say, but it's one of those things that are so difficult to explain, and I don't even know if you can teach something like that. I'm not gonna go as far as to say don't recommend it, because it's probably good to look at. It's probably good to check anything out at least once when it comes to, you know, widely recommended books, which that is a recommended book. But as far as whether I would, like, it helped me, I don't know. I don't know if it did, because yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna have to leave it at that. I would say, like, check it out, but I don't know if I can recommend it, because I don't know if I really understood what the artist was trying to get across in that book. It's a difficult thing to explain. Okay, I'm just gonna do this pose, and then I'll answer some more questions afterwards. I think I might have drawn this pose before, actually. But yeah, maybe I'll try to do this one quickly. It's really hot in this room. I'm starting to get sweaty. Yeah, I'm gonna go open the balcony window. I know that it might cause some noise, but I can't stand it. Okay. yeah, I also wanted to mention that the new merchandise that I've been working on is slowly happening, and I already did get my new sticker sets. I wanted to mention it because I'm terrible at giving updates on social media when it comes to like ongoing projects and stuff, and the reason why I haven't posted any photos of that yet is because I haven't gotten around to scheduling a nice photo session, and that is the reason. But yeah, I'm planning to do a shop update pretty soon. I'm just waiting for the washi tapes that I ordered. Never really made, I guess I've made washi tapes like once before, but this time I got a bunch of them and I'm super excited because I actually really like the designs for them. And so yeah, I just figured I would tell you guys about that. I'm hoping to get the washi tapes next week or the week after. I mean, I really hope they make it anyways, but you never know. Production pipelines are so crazy right now, so hopefully they don't get stuck somewhere. Alright, I'm just gonna move on from this one. I think it's just about done, I would say. Okay. The head looks kind of... I keep trying like these gigantic heads. Maybe it's because I keep leaning back. There, that seems to make more sense. Also, this torso is kind of small. I don't know. Whatever. Sometimes it just doesn't go right, but that's okay. Just gotta move on to the next one. I like how the size is like just all over the place, but whatever. I usually try to kind of match them up, but I don't know. Actually, maybe I'll just like switch the places between these two. Yeah, I think that would make sense. I don't know why this one looks so much taller. Clearly something went wrong, but whatever. Okay, maybe I should just like skip these two and get to the couples poses. Let me know what you guys think, because I guess I could still stick around for like up to an hour. But yeah, I'm not sure if I will have the capacity to actually stay for another hour. Okay, I'm just gonna take a quick pause and answer some questions. Alright. Yeah, I'm just gonna start with this question. Do I have any recommendations on tutorials for learning to paint with ink? Actually, yeah, I don't even know if I can answer that. No, I don't have any recommendations. My best, I guess, advice for ink would be to just use it and experiment with it, because that's how I learned how to use ink. Just straight up trial and error. Oh yeah, somebody asked what site do I get these references from. They are from Studio Graffiti, and you can get a 20% off discount code in my description. And they have a ton of different packs, like reference packs. I really like the stuff that they produce. It's pretty cheap and very useful. I get so much use out of each and every single pack that I would say it's a worthwhile investment. Oh yeah, and just to comment on the force method, to be totally honest, I don't even remember. Like, it's been so many years since I read that book that I don't actually remember what the method is, which is why I think I am not, like, I can't really make a comment on it right now. But it is, like, you know, knowing different methods is definitely great, I would say. So yeah, I should probably look into it again. Maybe it will be less obscure to me this time around. Oh yeah, I guess I haven't really like thanked you guys for coming to the stream, so I'm just gonna thank you for coming to the stream. I'm really glad that the chat is active, and it is a lot of fun. I think I was very kind of stressed out about this stream. I honestly had nightmares about it, which is so lame, because I don't know, I think I get easily stressed out by things that I find like unfamiliar, and I haven't streamed in so long that it kind of made me stressed out. But it's been super chill thus far, and I definitely think that this is something I would love to do more often going forward. And yeah, it's a lot of fun answering questions for you guys. So okay, I'm going to do the next pose. I kind of feel myself starting to get tired. I do want to do at least one of the couple poses, so I think I'm just gonna finish this one real quick and then do a couple poses. Probably gonna be really hard, but you know, maybe I should have done that earlier while I still had more energy. Time kind of flew. I can't believe it's already been 2 hours. At least I knew better than to assume that the stream would be short. Man, I'm just like totally off with the angles of the legs on this one. And I'm super lazy, so I'm just gonna do this. Sometimes there's no shame in a quick fix. I remember talking about this in one of my videos where it's like, is this cheating? Man, whatever. I know that I can draw it. I can redraw it if I have to, but why do I have to, you know? Okay. I actually want to do more clothing fold studies. I feel like I'm okay at those, but I do a lot of guessing, and I think I'd like to get better at it. my lines start to get kind of ridiculous when I'm lazy, and I start to rush. So all these squigglies you see happening here, that's because I'm kind of getting lazy. This pose is so mysterious. I have no idea where her other arm is. It's completely obscured by the rest of the body. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just seeing this dentists are scary comment at the top of my chat, and you know what's scarier than dentists? The bills that you have to deal with if you ignore them. So that's pretty much what I'm kind of at the end of right now. I honestly wish I wasn't afraid of dentists when I was little. It would have saved me a lot of money, like a lot. So yeah, ignoring dentists is terrible, you guys. Honestly, if I had to give myself advice for when I was younger, I would say just go to the freaking dentist in a timely manner. That is the best advice that I would have for my younger self. Okay, I'm just gonna call it quits on this one. And the next thing I'm gonna do is a couple drawing. But first I'm gonna see if there are any questions that I missed. Hello. I just realized that I haven't been saying hi to people entering the stream. But yes, hello to everyone and thank you for joining. I don't see any questions, I don't think. So I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna go ahead and draw this pose. I'm gonna say I might end the stream in like maybe 15 or 20 minutes. Yeah. I am getting a little bit tired, so I think that'll be fine. I'll do either two, like I'll do either this one or maybe like two couple poses and then yes. Alright, I see a question. Do I have any thoughts on the struggle with feeling worthy of drawing? Could you elaborate on that? I don't know if I 100% know what you mean by struggle with feeling worthy of drawing. Like, do you mean, is it like imposter syndrome or what is it exactly? I think I'll be able to comment if I know better what you mean. Close enough. Alright, so just a quick comment on this pose. If you guys were paying attention to how I approach this, it's very similar to just drawing a single figure. I mean, I am gonna say that this is relatively easy just because there's no overlap with the figures. But yeah, the basic approach to drawing two figures, as somebody asked at some point earlier in the stream, is to just, you know, be careful with the construction lines and just jot things down like so. I'm just catching up with the chat. Oh, I know I'm a little delayed probably, but bye to those of you who are leaving. Juliana, thanks for joining the stream and thanks for asking questions and being part of the chat and stuff. I see Jennifer. Okay, I think you just explained what you meant by the question. If you don't know the exact anatomy or something or structure, can't draw it, just causes you anxiety. So, yeah, sometimes I feel anxious about the prospect of having to draw something that I don't know how to draw, but I think that will just go away with practice. I think the best way to, sorry, one sec. I think I have to close the door because it's kind of loud. Okay, what was I saying? Yeah, I think the anxiety that comes with having to draw something that you don't know, it's pretty straightforward. Like, if you just zero in on what it is that you don't know how to draw and take some time to study, like, that should definitely take some of the anxiety off. But also with drawing, you should try not to focus too much on, like, I guess, your limitations or the way that you perceive your limitations, because sometimes you just gotta fill in the gaps based on what feels right. Like, especially if you use reference, you don't have to know exactly every muscle in the body or, like, you know what I mean, like everything about anatomy. You can just kind of fill in the gaps based on what you see and based on what looks right to you, and that way you should definitely try to, like, just have more faith in your ability and, like, you know, have some fun. I think that's a huge part of it that is often maybe overlooked when it comes to instructional stuff. So yeah, knowing exactly what you're doing isn't everything for sure. Drawing is a pretty intuitive process, I would say. Largely, for me at least anyway, so hopefully that helps. Alright, let's finish this pose. This model has such nice facial structure. Oh yeah, one thing that I completely forgot about is the 100 figures drawing challenge thing that I mentioned in my last Reference Wednesdays video. Jesus, I can't believe I forgot to mention that up until like now in the stream. But anyways, yeah, that's something that I thought would be kind of cool to do, like a challenge that's not one of those draw this in your style things, because I know those are popular, but I wanted to do something figure drawing related for the specific purpose of the Reference Wednesday thing, because I wanted to kind of like, I don't know, do a community related activity. So I really hope some of you guys will consider participating in that, and I think in a couple of weeks, my plan is anyway, is to do either a stream or make a video. Once there are some people that have submitted some stuff or contributed to the hashtag, and to essentially just give some tips on how to improve in figure drawing. So that's the plan, and I hope some of you guys participate. So yeah, I guess that's all I had to say about that. I just figured I have to mention it because I don't know how many of you guys know about it. And the hashtag is 100 figures with cause. I'll probably just mention it again like next week and stuff. I definitely want to give you guys enough time because I know some, like, everyone's schedules are different, so I don't want it to be like, you have 1 week, go! You know, that's too much stress, so it's chill. I think I like just drew them too close to each other, but that's okay. Alright, almost done with this one. Okay. I think I'll just do one more and then I'll call it quits. I'm just trying to catch up with the chat real quick. Yeah, somebody asked where these references are from. They are from Studio Graffiti, and you can find the link in my description to this stream. And there's also a 20% off code that you can use in any of their packs. I totally recommend it. I actually get so much use out of these, so yeah. Alright, I don't see any questions. So, okay, if anyone has a question, I'm probably gonna stream for like maybe 10, 15 more minutes, and then I will call it quits, but I will just do one last drawing, and if anybody has a question in the meantime, I would love to answer it while I'm working on the last drawing. Do I even have space? Oh, I don't know if I want to draw on a new canvas. You know what? I'm just gonna, like, just chat for like 5 to 10 minutes and wrap it up, because I don't know if I have enough energy to draw another thing. It's been a while, and yeah, I'm just gonna hang out and then call it a day. Honestly, I there's not enough space on the canvas, and I don't want to start a new canvas, so whatever. I filled it up. It's fine. By the way, if you want to ask me a question, can you just make sure to @ me so that I know that you're asking me and not someone else? Oh, hi, Kira. Thank you for popping in. Yeah, the stream went totally well, and it will be up when it's done pretty soon. So, yeah. Thanks for popping in, but it's okay that you missed it, because it's gonna be up anyways, and I'll probably stream more often from now on anyway. And thank you for the kind words. The question is, how do I decide on the proportions of my characters for the comic/graphic novel? Character design and stuff, but in the body. Yeah, proportions. That's actually a tough one, because I feel like I'm kind of bad at that. Like, I still haven't really exactly made any executive decisions, but I am assuming that I'm going to make like some sort of height chart. I think that will help me a lot with the body proportions. If you meant more like body types, I think with that, usually, like, I don't get too fussy about having a huge variety. Like, I've made my peace with the fact that I tend to draw a lot of similar body types, and that's fine, whatever. I do kind of, like, am going to make an effort to have some variety, but it's not a huge concern. But yeah, in terms of deciding on proportions, yeah, I think I am just going to have to do a height chart. Actually, speaking of comic related stuff, I'm just gonna quickly show you guys some stuff that I drew last night. I posted on my Instagram account, but I did crop it because I thought it might be spoilery, but honestly, like, at this point, who even cares? Because I always feel like if I talk too much about the story, I'm just gonna spoil everything, but honestly, whatever. I've reached peak frustration, so even if this is a spoiler, I don't even care. So I drew this stuff last night, and it was specifically for the purpose of the prologue to the story, and I just needed to, like, figure out what this one character looks like, and it's been slightly updated, but not really. It is a character that I've had for like a million years, same as for most of the main characters that appear in my comic anyways. But yeah, I just wanted to share this thing that I drew, and I'm really happy with it. I love drawing my characters, so I had a great time. And unfortunately, I was trying to, like, I was recording it, but my computer just decided to rage quit and automatically update, and I unfortunately lost the recording, even though I was able to recover the Photoshop file mostly. I lost maybe like 10 minutes of work or something, so it wasn't a big deal, but yeah, unfortunately I lost the recording, which sucks. So yeah, anyways, gonna answer the next question, which is, who are my biggest art inspirations? I have a lot, and I go through phases, like I think most artists do. Currently, I'm kind of obsessed with this one artist, one comic artist. His name is Gigi Cavanago, I believe. And he does art for the Dylan Dog series, which I think is like an Italian comic. I don't know, I've never really read it. I bought one book from the series. It's called Mater Dolorosa. It's in Italian, so I don't know what the story is, but the illustrations are just so beautiful, and that is my current obsession. And you know, like, I love Claire Wendling and JC Leyendecker. Pretty common influences for most people around my age, I guess. But yeah, I can't really think of anything else right now, but I definitely go through phases. Okay. Next question. When I'm drawing a post that has two characters, do I work on both at the same time, or get one most of the way and then work on the other? Actually, that's a really good question, and what we're looking at here is a pose with two characters, and I do think I still have the sketch. Okay, yeah, so here's the sketch underneath, and let me just make it a little bit darker so it's easier to see. I kind of worked on them. Oh man, I think I deleted, or did I merge? I think I just merged these a little bit. But essentially, I drew the male character first, and then I drew the girl. I think it just, in the context of the overlap, it made sense for me to draw the guy first, and then I drew Heijin in afterwards. So, yeah, but I didn't draw him completely, so I'd say I get the gist of the pose down, and then I'll put the other character in, and then maybe add a little bit more clarifications to the other character. So I kind of go back and forth a bit, but I definitely do bodies first, and then add the clothing on top. That's something that I always do. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question. Next question: werewolves or vampires? That's kind of a tough one. I mean, if I had to pick at gunpoint, I'd pick vampires, I think. Next questions: how do you usually draw female lips? Because I feel that I make the line too dark and they look like they got a stash. I don't know. I do that too. I make a dark line sometimes. Maybe to make sure it doesn't look like a stash, you have to make sure that the bottom lip is clear, maybe? I don't know. I'd have to see a visual example to give advice on that, but honestly, trial and error is the way to go, because, you know, if it doesn't look right, just fix it, like draw something differently and see if that works better. Sorry if this is a really boring answer, but okay. Next question: what was the 100 drawing thing? So the 100 drawing thing is just some small community thing that I'm doing with essentially asking or getting people to draw 100 figures in maybe like a week or like a couple of weeks as something like a challenge. And then in a couple of weeks time, probably somewhere in mid-November or something, I'm going to look at what people did and then do a little video on feedback, just giving people feedback and, you know, looking at other people's results and such. So that's what that is. I'm sorry if that's like the worst explanation, but you could just watch my previous Reference Wednesday video. There I explain a lot better on what that's about. So yeah. What artist has influenced my current art style? I cannot attribute it to one artist. I think it's been just a ton of artists, literally, like, through the years. I mean, I've been drawing for so long that at this point it's been like hundreds of artists, so sorry, I can't really say exactly what artist. Okay, I'm just gonna quickly answer this one question. Where can you read my comic? Right now, you can't because I haven't really started it yet, but once I start it, I will make it known far and wide where you can read it, so just stay tuned for that, I guess. And, yeah, thank you for, thank you, FRL.Larifari. Thank you for the comment. It's very nice. I'm glad to hear you have improved, and I'm really glad to read this nice comment. Thank you. And yes, Gigi's work is incredible. Totally obsessed. Okay, so you guys, I think this is a good note for me to call it quits because I am starting to get pretty tired. It's been almost 3 hours and I gotta get ready for my dentist appointment. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining the stream. I had a lot of fun. I think I am going to try to stream a lot more often from now on. I really enjoyed this, and I enjoyed one-way chatting with you guys, and thank you for asking a bunch of questions. And yeah, like I said, the 100-figure drawing challenge is underway. I'm probably gonna look at the people's results in a couple of weeks, or 2 or 3 weeks from now. And I get all my reference packs from Studio Graffiti, and I have the 20% discount in my description. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Gonna have a shop update soon, but I will probably make another video about that. So again, thank you guys so much for joining the stream, and I will hopefully stream again soon. Hope everyone has a great rest of the week and weekend.